Hey guys, hope all is well. Welcome to another day and another video. As you can see behind me, Buffalo Lake has finally defrosted. After a very long winter, it is good to see actual liquid water instead of ice. And with a glorious sunrise, it looks amazing. Okay, maybe it's not Buffalo Lake. Thought I would stop in and say hi. We're out on the road. Just do a little update here. Nothing too exciting. I'll try keeping this somewhat brief. But if you look behind me here, that is Alabama right there. Our campground is in Alabama. We're staying at a KOA. I think it is the Gulf Breeze West Pensacola KOA here in, I believe, Lillian, Alabama. But kind of interesting here, check this out. Just cross that bridge over there, get around to Siegel, and right over there is Florida. So we're just down here kind of bouncing between Florida and Alabama, just bumming around, hitting some beaches, doing some hiking, having a little bit of fun, enjoying some warmer temperatures, though the next 2 days are going to be a bit chilly. Still feels really nice this morning. Do have some interesting updates on how we got here. It was a bit of a whirlwind. So the prior week, I've been watching this weather pattern moving into the central part of the United States, and it was going directly in the path that we would be traveling in. I was hoping that pattern would eventually change, but it actually just got worse. So last Friday was the day we were supposed to leave. And I was leaving from south central Wisconsin, headed basically straight down to the southern end of Alabama. But Friday, it looked like wind gusts in the 50 miles an hour range through Illinois into Kentucky, which is where our first destination was. And well, my van just does not travel well through the wind. So we checked into Thursday. Thursday looked a lot better with the wind. So we headed out a day early. Went down through Illinois, got to Paducah, Kentucky Thursday evening, and it was like 82 degrees out. Gorgeous. Which is why these storms were going to start brewing fairly soon. Our next stop was supposed to be Birmingham, Alabama. Well, I was watching the Weather Channel up there in Paducah, and the weather forecast looked horrendous. High risk for tornadoes, high wind. And I told Chris, I'm like, we can't go that way. One, the van's not gonna move in a high wind situation. And, you know, I like storms, but even that looked a bit risky. So Friday, we decided to go around these storms. So we headed down through Atlanta, Georgia, down to southern Georgia. And let me tell you, we hit Atlanta, Georgia, Friday afternoon at 3:30. And it was probably the worst I've ever seen Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been through there a million times over the years, but we hit it just right. I think we ended up getting out of the congestion on the other side probably at like 5:40. So it was well over 2 hours of just hanging on, moving very slowly. Definitely not the funnest of times, but I don't let it bother me too much anymore. Just kind of grin and bear it. But we got through there, got to somewhat southern Georgia. Again, 80-some degrees that day. Felt great. Stayed at a nice little KOA. Next day we got up, headed down towards Jacksonville, Florida. Went a lot further east than we initially planned. Then headed down to St. Augustine. And I gotta say, as experienced travelers, we kind of screwed up. Obviously hitting Atlanta at 3:30. I don't know if it could have been avoided, but we hit it. We knew better, but we dealt with it. And our second mistake, if you want to call that, is we were in St. Augustine on a Saturday at noon during spring break. Let's just say there was a lot of people around there. Ended up finding like a state park there. It was pretty busy. Waited in line to get in there. Didn't pan out so hot, so we got in the van and started headed back towards the destination where we're staying here right now. Actually, no, scratch that. We stayed at a KOA over there first. We stayed at a KOA between I would say Lake City and Gainesville, somewhere in that neck of the woods. That was a fairly large KOA. Pulled in there again. It was like 88 degrees that day. It was inland a little bit. So you get inland in Florida on a nice hot day. Not quite used to that, but it still felt pretty good. Got to our campsite there, and of course there's fire ants all over, so the guys are there spraying the fire ants, trying to clear those things out for us. Ended up not being a problem. And of course, go to the front desk looking for some ice at a campground, and they didn't sell freaking ice. The lady was like, our freezer only goes down to 50. And I said, well, that's not gonna work, is it? And there was no place close enough to walk to get ice. And we were already set up in the van. So I had to go back, unplug everything, run downtown and grab a bag of freaking ice. It wasn't bad. So we stay at KOAs quite a bit. I believe this is our 15th one. And we usually stay because you kind of know what you're gonna get. But I'll say this, the Florida ones haven't been quite as nice. They're a bit more dungy, a little bit more rundown, which I don't know. It's kind of how the South is in general. So maybe it's just the way it is. One thing I might make a future video about is just that. The difference between the North and South. Just seems quite a bit cleaner up north than it does down here. A lot more rundown small towns and stuff like that through here. But it is what it is. Speaking of that, I wanted to say, I was gonna make a separate video for this, but Tennessee, guys, Tennessee is a freaking dump. I mean, literally a dump. When we cross the Kentucky border into Tennessee, both sides of the ditches are just filled with garbage. So much so it actually almost pisses you off. I mean, there's garbage flying across the interstate. It's just everywhere in the ditches. It almost looks like littering is encouraged down there. It's craziness. And it's been like that for years. And ironically, we get caught up in traffic over there, moving very slowly. There's about a car, 2 cars ahead of us. And I see a bag go flying in the ditch. And I go to Chris, I think somebody just threw their bag of fast food in the ditch. You know, right in front of all these people. We're all grouped up. Then I just thought maybe it was just blowing in the wind like I've seen earlier. And then about a second later, there goes the fast food cup into the ditch. So these people are just throwing their shit into the ditch in front of people with no care in the world. Which sucks because Tennessee, you know, is a beautiful state naturally. But you know, when you fill the roadsides full of garbage, kind of takes away from that, doesn't it? Anyway, the KOA here is pretty nice for the most part. Again, there's a couple little dingy stuff here, a little bit of uncleanliness in spots. Something that I guess if I was running a campground, I would make sure that was a lot nicer. But it is what it is. We will deal with it. It's not that bad. Nothing too much to complain about. So we're running around down here, spending some time in Pensacola. Back over here a little bit. Shout out to Don and Penny. Been running around year-old stomping grounds a little bit, but we have not made it into your neighborhood. Outside of that, knock on wood, van's been doing pretty good. Just got a bit of rain last night and that's been it. Again, today's supposed to be cool, but clear, I believe. And congratulations. I think today is the last full day of winter. Tomorrow being the first day of spring. That'll be nice. If you guys follow this channel, you know where I live up in south central Wisconsin. I break it down into a warm season and a cold season. And the cold season ends on April 15th, so we're less than a month away, guys. So hopefully we spend our time down here, get back up there, and we won't have a whole bunch of cold stuff left to deal with. But there's definitely going to be some. It won't be over yet. And I am curious up there. Is Buffalo Lake unfrozen yet? It might be. I know they had 75 just the other day. But just yesterday, it's cold and snowy. And yes, guys, I'm doing laps back and forth on this pier just so I can talk to you guys. Well, down here we did a 6-mile plus hike. I think down in Gulf Breeze, Alabama. I did post some pictures of that on his YouTube. Then Gulf Shores National Seashore Park over by Pensacola. Not positive that's the name, but we did about 4 miles that day. We're maybe eyeing up the big bridge over in Pensacola. It's a new bridge, not sure the name of it, but they got a walking path on both sides. We may or may not tackle that. We will see, depending if we choose a hiking trail over that or not. Time will tell. Stay tuned for that. But even with those 6-mile hikes, Chris has been getting up every morning, cranking 4 miles out here at the campground. So some days he's been over 10 miles hiking. I do more leisurely strolls out here at the campground. It's a bit easier. Then I'll do the main hikes when we go somewhere. Can't overdo the ticker here. On that note, guys, one last view here, and I'll see you guys next time.